prediction time.
Yes.
First of all, to break from tradition, I'm not going to ask you to predict the games. I want you to tell me who's going to be in the Women's Super League Grand Final. 2 semi-finals next week. Castlewood versus Wigan and Saints versus Leeds. Now, bear in mind, of course, when we did the Challenge Cup final, we got this horribly wrong. So, who's going to be in the final?
Well, I'm going to Yorkshire. I'm going Leeds Cass.
I do think Castlewood will beat Wigan. I think Wigan, by their own admission, have not hit the heights this year that they did last year. They're in a transition phase. Cass have been brilliant, and Cass know that they got through to the Challenge Cup final where they were heavy favourites to win it and couldn't. So that I think they want to go back to a grand final and avenge that. The Saints Leeds one is really interesting. That was one of the games of the season, their cup semi-final that Leeds won very late on with Caitlin Beaver's long range try. I think that result last week by St Helens will give them all the confidence they need, having beaten Castleford. So I am going to go for a Castleford St Helens grand final and hope that Danica isn't in.
Castleford are going to be there.
She's playing Danica, is she?
Yeah. She's got the try against Waking the other week. A long distance try as well.
What was it she was described as this week? She's faster than she looks.
Yeah, not as slow as she looks or something.
Yes.
That was by
that was by a team.
that was by Lois. Let me
She
find
gets there as quick as what she can. Is that the old saying?
She's faster than she looks. There you go. Followed by another great line by the commentator, but one I'm not going to repeat on there. We'll go back and watch it on YouTube. Casper will be in the final. Oh,
You'll be getting a text.
I haven't seen Saints enough, but I think that I've thought for a long time it will be a Casper Saints final, and for some reason I think Saints will win it, and that's been even more backed up by yesterday. But Leeds know how to win big games. They've got too many big game players in that side. The fact that Courtney Hill's back is a massive positive for them. The fact that Caitlin Booz was back last week, so I said the week off against Wakefield. This Abby Eaton they've signed from the Army. She's bloody good as well. I'm going to go Cass Saints, but you know it's going to be Cass Leeds. You know Leeds are going to win the grand final. And that just happened that way. But we know big game teams. You can't write off Leeds apart from the men. NRL Grand Final. It's the battle of Britain versus Australia because the Sydney Roosters representing Australia, and apparently Canberra Raiders, who've got a couple of English people in there, they represent the whole of us. Sunday morning, is it 9:30 or something?
Yeah.
It won't kick off on time.
It's a 10:30 kick-off. I think they've got all the build.
10:30, there you go. Canberra having beaten South Sydney.
One Republic that happened to play beforehand.
Yeah, so tune in at 10:30. Canberra beat South Sydney. The Roosters beat the Storm. Who will it be back-to-back titles for the Roosters? Or
Well, I saw the Roosters play Canberra. I think it's about 5 or 6 weeks ago down at Queanbeyan, and from there, and just total quality. You know, from 1 to 17. I'm not saying the Canberra Raiders are their sheer quality because they are, but I just feel as though they've got the wool over them. The Roosters on Canberra. Great that the British guys are making, you know, all the headlines down under at this moment in time. Certainly John Bateman. You know, as I've mentioned about John before, he's a freak of a rugby league player and he's taken the NRL by storm. Josh Hodgson, you know, if it wasn't for Cameron Smith, easily the best hooker in the world from there. And Ricky Stewart getting a tune out of all his players, but I just feel as the way the Roosters, Cooper Cronk, his last ever professional games, retiring after this one. We all knew what he did last year, just with one arm. You know, what's going to be like organising this year with 2 arms, fully fit. Want to go on a massive fight. Tedesco, we're just looking at him there, best player in the world at this moment in time. Boyd Corker again, the second rowers, but I just feel as though the Roosters a little bit too much quality. Well, Canberra, I've not been there, Phil, for what, 25 years is it? 25 years, big occasion. I don't think that'll get to them, to be honest with you, from there. But the Roosters, for me, too much quality. I'm going to Roosters by 26 points to 10.
I think the interesting thing about this game is that there are parallels with what Canberra have done this year with everything we've said about Salford and Featherstone. There's a real togetherness about this team, and that it's not about are they the best players in the NRL. They clearly are exceptionally good players, otherwise they wouldn't be in the grand final. But they perhaps wouldn't make a top 13, some of them. But what they've got is a coach that believes in them and has given them a reason and a method and a way of playing that they clearly love. And they've nilled 3 teams this year, which is virtually unheard of in the NRL, which tells you that their defence is bang on. And it is defence that wins the big games. So we've got a great story. We've either got the Roosters going back to back, which hasn't happened since 1993, or we've got Canberra winning it for the first time since 1994. I think you're right. On the big occasions, the class players stand up. And I think we saw Melbourne have lost maybe a couple of world-class players over the last couple of years. And when it got to the point in the game last week against the Roosters where they could have exerted pressure, they got it back to 8-6. They couldn't find the play, which was partly down to the Roosters stifling them and partly down to they might have taken the wrong option. I don't think the Roosters will be fazed by anything that happens on Sunday morning. Whatever type of game it is, they've got the players that can cope with it. They've been there and they've done that. But there's something a bit magical about this Canberra team. And it is the influence that Bateman's had. And he's not going to be fazed by being in a grand final. He's coming off a grand final here. Hodgson, who arguably was a player of the match last week. The fact that they beat the Rabbitohs with a man less for the last 10 minutes and still managed to find a way of holding together. I am going to go with the sentiment, and the Raiders I think will win, but this one could be going to Golden Point extra time.
Big call, big call.
I don't watch enough of the NRL, but Sydney played nearly Wakefield's colours. And I used to have a Canberra shirt, the one with Canberra milk on, like a classic one, and it got lost in a house move, which I was gutted about because I could probably sell it for a fortune on eBay these days. Josh Johnson's very good on the telly, by the way, which is proof that, and they've started to do over here, they should use more than just the same old faces. It's interesting to try new voices. And why have the Australians started having 1 million commentators on as well, by the way? Why have they copied us for that one? I ain't got a clue. I'll go for the Raiders by 2. They've got British people in there. They're like, go on. I know, Roosters have got Ryan Hall as well, so you might get a medal on the side. League One, playoff final at a pitch somewhere near a park. Oldham versus Newcastle Thunder.
Yeah, I feel as though they've had a week off Oldham. This could be a game too far for Newcastle. Maybe one game too many. He wants to finish on a high. Does Scott there at Oldham? Doesn't he want to put them back in a good position from there? I think this will be quite easy for Oldham, to be honest with you. A decent side. I saw them a few times last year when I was at that rubbish place, Keighley Cougars, to be honest with you, from there. So
the League One Club of the Year.
League One Club of the Year. How disgraceful is that? Anyway, but yeah, Oldham. I think they'll win quite easily. I'm going to go Oldham by 24.
I think Newcastle got a shock when they first started these playoffs. I think they thought they were the team with all the momentum. They went to Oldham and Oldham beat them easily. Doncaster as well, beat them the first time that they played. But I think Newcastle have learnt that, and they were dominant this week. I'm going to go Newcastle by 2.
This is almost the...
Have you been on the syrup?
I don't think I've got a prediction right all year.
Have you been on the syrup though?
This is very similar, isn't it, to the game we'll talk about last, because you've got the team who you can imagine they as if there's some kind of shadowy figure at the RFL. They would want in the championship is a Newcastle who are progressive and further expanding the width and breadth of the competition or whatever against Oldham, who are whatever they are. And they've obviously done very well this year because they finished above Newcastle in the table. They've only missed out by 2 points in automatic promotion. I don't know enough about these things, so I'm going to go with Newcastle by 4. It's a bit of a cop out, isn't it? We can't know about everything. Like anyway, got other stuff to do. Ask me about American horse racing instead. Friday night, it is the Betfred Super League preliminary final. I preferred when they called this the Eliminator or whatever it was. It sounded more threatening. Wigan Warriors versus the Salford Red Devils to play St Helens in the grand final next week.
Looking forward to this one. Looking so forward to this one. As we know, the Wounded Warrior, exactly what happened to him last week against St Helens. They won't worry about that, as we said earlier in the show from there. And the holders, they don't want to let the trophy go quite easily, and they won't do. They won't. This is their part of the season. This is a business end. This is what's in their DNA. and I say they know what it takes to win these big games. But, and you say to me, have you been on syrup, Scully?
No.
Salford would have learned from 2 weeks ago, from a point of view where, yes, they will be patient, but this time, Salford will be a little bit smarter. I think Ian Watson will come up with a slightly different game plan for some of his players. Jackson Aces won't be changing, Lola here won't be changing, but maybe just some of his forwards a little bit running out wider. They might change from the left to right, but there'll be something else a little bit different for me with Salford on Friday night. It's a great story, and I don't think this story, and I don't think this journey's ending on Friday. I don't. Salford have learned. I mean, Salford, with no pressure, enjoying what they're doing. I'm going Salford to turn Wigan over on Friday, and I'm going Salford by 7.
I think you make a very compelling case, and I don't think anybody who's watched Salford in the playoffs and saw them nil a team this week would know that they are up for this. They've got the constituent parts to trouble Wigan. They could have beaten them a fortnight ago.
Absolutely.
What they didn't do, as we said at the beginning of the programme, was just take the chances when they made them. They made the chances, but they just couldn't take them. I think it would be a great story, and I would love Salford to win, because I think the grand final is desperate for a new name in there. Whether they win it or not is a debate for next week, but I don't think it will do the sport any harm at all for Salford to appear round the corner from where they play. I think there's a lot of narrative there. But you look out the window, it's raining. You look at what Wigan do, probably better than any other club at this time of the year, and that is know how to play a game in this time of year, in this weather, and in these conditions, and they've got so much experience. You know, you're not going to tell me that Sean O'Loughlin and Tommy Luai this week isn't reminding them exactly what it is that they need to do. You know, Zach Hardacre has got a huge incentive to play on a stage that he missed out on last time he had the opportunity, and he's been getting better every week. I've just got a feeling that the young Wigan forwards got a lesson last week from St Helens, and that they may have thought they would have finished the article and have been reminded that they're not, which will make them come back even more determined this week. I can see this going to the last minute, but I just have a feeling that Wigan will win it by 2 points, because it's what Wigan do.
I'm still getting over the KFC pie in Australia.
$5.
Yeah. It's almost as good as during the last World Cup when the main highlight was the KFC chips, wasn't it?
Chicken as well.
Yeah, there will be one. Old George Williams thinking, yeah, pies, they're there. Ready for me when I go to Canberra. I want to tip Salford, but for everything you've just said, Phil, it's all about Wigan in big games. And I've been tipping Wigan to win the grand final for months now, and I said they're going to win it next year. If I tip Salford, is it because I want them to get to the final, because I want to see something different?
The fact that you're even debating it tells you that we've got a great game.
When I said I don't want to see it to win a game, that doesn't mean it won't be a great game, it won't be a great final. It's just we've seen it all before. And sometimes you want to see something new, but it doesn't always happen that way. Nah, I'm going to go with Salford. Let's go with Salford.
Cool.
Jackson Hastings will have a great weekend, because he will lead Salford to the grand final on Friday. He'll be announced as Man of Steel on Sunday, and Salford will win, because I can't split them in golden point by 1. What's his name? O'Brien.
He's playing on Saturday now.
He is. Because on Saturday night at 7:30, at the Lamport Stadium, in front of all the cardboard cutouts and all the beer garden and a few people in flat caps, Toronto Wolfpack representing the future. They got somebody cruelly described Featherstone as being a town stuck in the 80s. I think that's a bit harsh. 70s.
What, a bit harsh on the 80s?
Featherstone Rovers at Toronto Wolfpack. A game in which, when you started your career, Scully, you could never have imagined that we'd be talking about Toronto versus Featherstone. But here we are, for a new team in Super League. One of the oldest clubs versus one of the
Well, I'll tell you what, you asked many of the Featherstone fans and saying you're going to go to Toronto in if you had said to the Featherstone fans when they won the Challenge Cup against Hull back in 1983, and in 2019 you're going to be going to Toronto to qualify for the big league, they would have been thinking you'd been on the sauce. Don't worry about that. But this journey with Featherstone, you know, it started at Leigh, then it went to York, then it went over to France to Toulouse from there, and they're on this journey, and they are enjoying this journey. They're doing it with a smile on their face. There's no pressure on them. All the pressure is on the Wolfpack, and with the show, Featherstone won't be going there thinking, yeah, look at that team sheet, you think, no, we can't beat these. Featherstone won't be lacking in desire. Featherstone won't be lacking in purpose. Featherstone won't be lacking in enthusiasm. They know for 80 minutes, this Toronto side are only human, and if they put pressure on them, can they handle that pressure? The problem is, the quality of what Toronto have got, and certainly as Phil's said a few times this year regarding Brian McDermott, he will be taking all the pressure off these players. They brought in a player as well this year of Toronto in John Wilkin to get him over this step, to get him over that white line. The journey for Featherstone has been brilliant, but I just feel as though the Wolfpack, too much quality, too much experience at this level. Maybe a game too far for Featherstone. I don't think they will get hammered, not one little bit, because they will play for the full 80. But I just feel as though Toronto have got too much quality, and I'll go Toronto by 12.
I think this is where the week off comes in and is an advantage, and that Featherstone's journey has been majestic. Not only have they won away from home, but they've got better every week. I thought the display at Leigh would take some beating, but the dismantling of York and never gave Toulouse a look in this week. They are getting better and better, and I've absolutely no doubt that the more you say to them you can't do something, the more they'll be determined to do it. So flying out on a Thursday for a game, it won't faze them at all. And the way that they've played in the playoffs, they've shown that quality as well. But I've just got a feeling that Toronto might start this game in the way that St Helens started against Wigan this week because of the week off. That they have been priming themselves for this 80 minutes, and they've got two things that work to their advantage. One is, as you say, the Brian McDermott factor, because the one thing he will do, he'll come up with a game plan. He'll have assiduously studied Featherstone, he'll have picked a couple of things, and he will give his team a game plan that might be completely different to the way they've played all this year. But what he'll say is, if you do this for 80 minutes, you'll be successful. The other thing, I think, is the fact that they are carrying the memory of last season. And I don't think they underestimated London in any way whatsoever. And I don't think that you can take anything away from that London performance, because to restrict Toronto to not even score a try when they'd been so free-spirited for much of that season before said everything about London. But it also said that Toronto froze on the day. And I think they will learn from that. They will not be intimidated by the fact that at the end of this 80 minutes is everything that they've been striving for. And because of that, I don't think it's anything to do even with the respective quality of the two teams. I think you can make a case for saying that man for man, Featherstone have got what they need to beat Toronto. I just think that the cards are stacked in Toronto's favour. And I think they'll win, and they'll win by 12, and Featherstone will be cheered off the field by the Toronto fans for their contribution.
What is going to be like in Toronto on Saturday night? Brian McDermott's the big thing, isn't it? Well, it's going to be sunny. 13 degrees, no snow, that's the good news. Brian McDermott knows how to win big games, because he won all them with Leeds. It's a tricky one for Featherstone, isn't it? Because obviously they want to go up, obviously they want to win. But if they're in the Championship next year, they still have a Joe Reg with Leeds. They still have access to those players and whatever.
And they don't have Toronto in the division, so they've got actually more chance of getting promoted next year.
I can think of at least two Super League clubs who would love Featherstone to be in the division next year. For the fans they bring to the fixtures. Might mean different fixtures on there. Good Friday as well. Bring back Wakefield and Fair. Well, I don't think it's going to happen, because Toronto have been geared up knowing that they would be in this game all season. And unfortunately for Featherstone, it will end here. Toronto by 12.
We've all gone the same.
All
Toronto
dreams
by
die.
12, eh?
Oh, see all the optimism that
But again,
back.
if Featherstone win, it's a great
Brilliant.
story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they can't lose, can they? Whether they win or lose at the weekend, they can't lose.
That's why I say they'll get cheered off, because I think the Toronto fans, in the euphoria of their team celebrating, will acknowledge the contribution that Featherstone have made and will take them to their hearts.
And as
They
someone
won't be buying a drink all weekend.
as someone described it, this is the play after play Wakefield in the first game of the season next season, because that's always.
The other interesting thing, which we'll talk about next week when we know the result, because it's immaterial until we do, is where will Toronto play some of their early season games if they're in Super League next year? Will we be going to Barcelona? Will we be going to Copenhagen? Will we be going to Amsterdam? Because they're talking about going on the road.
Dublin, Rotterdam.
Well, it'd be interesting. It's there's no point talking about it till you know if they've achieved it, but it changes the dynamic a little bit of what Super League might look like.
Well, the great thing about it, fellas, we're on the road next week ourselves, so we'll see you all in Castleford next week.
Well, we're here first, and then
Oh, we're here Monday.
we're here Monday.
Oh, we're here. Oh, we've got two shows, haven't we?
Well, yeah, by popular demand.
All right. So we do. All right. So it's Monday and Tuesday.
The
All
Tuesday
right.
show,
Double.
we won't
Oh, so it's a big it's a question answer at Cass, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll
Right. Okay.
record
We're not
it,
doing the
so-
show from there,
well,
right?
people,
Got you.
people are asking, we're here on Monday, but on Tuesday we'll record it and put it out as a special, but we won't be live. So,
But come along and
But
ask
yeah.
us the question. Berate us for how rubbish we are at forecasting.
What do you mean, narrators? Just tell us how good we are.
and if,
Oh,
we're,
first.
Eh?
and if it's post production, I can edit out all the answers we don't want to get out there. So you can ask us all those questions you're always wanting to ask.
Great stuff. Yeah.
I'll just get somebody else to answer them.
Look forward to seeing you next week in Cass then.
Hi everyone over in the UK. Well, I'm here to tell you that come October this year, I'll be travelling to the UK to do a week-long talking tour. I'll be talking about everything in my life, my rugby league career, how I started, and of course how I finished this year. I'll be travelling to Leeds, St Helens, Hull and Doncaster to do live events. Go to rmsportsevents.co.uk to get all the information. I'll also be playing a couple of games of rugby league against an old foe of mine, Adrian Morley. The events also support Life for a Kid. Can't wait for it. It's going to be great fun. I love the UK. See you in October.